Hello and welcome everybody. Let me start with a quick sound check to see that you all can hear me. I hope this starts up fairly soon. Sound check. Yes, I think it you can all hear me. Okay, so today I'm coming online and I would like to start with a couple of very important announcements. First of all, the Global Crime Fighters episode will start 2 hours later tonight at 8 p.m. in Central Europe, which is 7 p.m. in the UK. And I think I'm still, I think after the summertime to wintertime switch, 7 p.m. for me should be something like, I think 1 p.m. in the afternoon, or 2 p.m. Sorry, 2 p.m. something like that, 1 or 2 p.m. in on the East Coast. I'm still getting sorry, let me get this straight. 8 p.m. Central Europe, 7 p.m. UK, and this means it's 2 p.m. on the East Coast of the United States. And the reason why the entire show has to be shifted, and the reason why I'm so very confused trying to do the arithmetic in my head, is because I have been assaulted brutally nonstop. So today I suffered nonstop machine gunning into my head. I was tortured all of last night. I went to bed and I went to sleep this morning at I think 4 or 5 a.m. I can't exactly remember. But the gunning continued. I woke up a few hours later, and all throughout the day, I have received hard, intense pulse shots to my head and into my skull. And I was trying to protect myself, holding metal above my head. But as you know, these military shots that seem to come from satellites, as Richard Lighthouse confirmed, they go through several layers of metal, so I'm utterly defenseless. And after a day of mutilation, I have to say my brain just feels extremely damaged and I just feel exhausted and extremely mutilated, like pretty much every day since January 2016. But there are some days which are worse than others. So for this reason, I just have to get some more rest and I need some 2 hours. But the show is still happening tonight and I will not let myself be defeated. Now, I've got a couple of announcements to make. They are all good announcements, I think, for once. They are, announcements of work ahead and of steps that we will take to stop this Nazi Holocaust that we are facing, and that thousands and thousands of people around the world are affected by, just like I am. And what I would like to remind everybody of is that on Sunday, let me share my screen and show you. On Sunday is Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom. So it's called Remembrance Day in the United Kingdom, but it's actually celebrated around the world. It's now it's called Armistice 100 because it's exactly 100 years after the end of the First World War, and this is when poppies were first used as a symbol for the fallen soldiers. Now, if you want to find out what the cartel's meaning of poppies is, please have a look at my last episode from last week. If you skip through the show, the Global Crime Fighters episode 8, you will see me hold up a poppy and explain what I believe to be the true meaning behind this. And if you look at this, well, poppies are bright red, and when they are, placed like this, it literally looks like pools of blood. And I think that's exactly what the cartel wants, because they don't want us to remember the personalities of these individual people. They have to be reduced down to just the blood, which is what the cartel actually drew from the nation. So it's another dehumanizing ritual. There's nothing that says that you couldn't have this with the photographs of all the fallen, or as many photographs as are still available. There are other ways to remember people, but when they're being reduced down to the blood that was spilled and the entire world life achievement in the world has been just wiped, then that speaks of pretty much the mindset and the psychology of psychopathic degenerates who are orchestrating this. I too used to think, oh, this is a really nice thing to remember and look at the poppies and they are great. And I should say that I completely support all the people who were injured in war. However, I do question why they even went into war. And if they went voluntarily for money, then they shouldn't be surprised to get their limbs blown off if they go into another country and start to take, try to take it over for the Crown Corporation. But anyway, I see the personal tragedies, and in the First and the Second World Wars, the people had no choice. So this is what I want to say. However, while the British government and other governments around the world put on a big show for something that happened 100 years ago, there's a live Holocaust happening right now that they couldn't give a flying fuck about. And this is where the entire lying, pathological lying of psychopathic degenerates comes in. So I want to counter that. And I am not going to rubbish the memory of the veterans who were forced to fight in the First and Second World War because they were victims. They were forced, I now know, by the Crown Corporation and the Masonic crime cartel, and that's why the Masonic symbolism is all around us. But I do understand that they were forced. They had no choice. There was a draft. If you didn't answer it, you were shot. So I understand. But I also want us to go to the next level, and I want these veterans to also understand that while they are grieving over something that happened in the 1940s and, in 1915 to 1918, they are being murdered right now. And in the United States, the veterans are, I hate to use the expression dropping life like flies because it's dehumanizing, but they are dying, or rather I suspect being killed off at a very high rate. So if anything, I want to reach out to these veterans because they do understand war. They do understand what it's like to be faced with utter psychopathy. And I want to inform them that there's a live Holocaust happening right now. I'm in it. Many other defenseless women and children are in it, and men as well. And we need to fight that right now instead of frankly nancing around about stuff that we cannot help anymore. So really, if anything, we should learn from this. And I would like all of you to go to the Armistice 2018 page of it's called armistice100org.uk. Go here and tell me what's wrong with this website. I mean, first of all, it's the Department for Digital Culture, Media and Sport, right? Putting all this on. Second of all, there's the logo showing the line of finance and the unicorn of Intel and the Crown Corporation, literally enslaving the British monarchy and the royal crest. But hey, that's the crest of the United Kingdom these days, But then look more closely at here, these people who were frankly murdered in an orchestrated war by the Crown Corporation, being reduced to petals and little plastic, and paper flowerets, fake flowers instead of their true memory and their work achievement. And then tell me what's wrong that we are looking at the pedestal of a very large obelisk that has been chopped off halfway. Okay. If you know about the obelisk, if you know what the base is and why, the reefs are down here at the base and not in the shaft of the obelisk, you have understood a lot. Okay. So there's many things wrong that we need to wake up to. And I also would like to point you to these historic images that are shown down here about, commemorating the First World War. And look again, the shot here, right, is again of another obelisk-like structure in London. Okay, this is, I think, Nelson's column, another Masonic, big, fat, orchestrated thing for the Crown Corporation. But again, the obelisks, again, the base, again, the people being at the base. And as always, we have these, Roman or Greek temples in the background and domes. And I explained why we keep seeing these kind of the temple, the dome with the oculus at the top, which if you stand in the right center of it and are looking up, it looks like the all-seeing eye is staring down at you. And why we see that, why we see this, and why we see the big stone phallus over and over and over. And if you've understood this, you have woken up much more than anybody else. But anyway, what I do say is that I do completely support the personal tragedies. I think people who have been injured need to be helped. They need to have, a proper pension when they cannot work and they cannot, protect themselves. That's what we're there for as a society. But I also would like this year, the 100-year anniversary of the armistice, to be used for two things. Number one is that all of us, we're pulling our head out of our rectum and we realize what the hell we've been doing for the last 100 years. We start asking questions like the ones I've just phrased. We also start opening our eyes and we start spotting, for example, here on the left, that there's a little crown here. What the hell is the crown doing there? Because the crown jewels are on extraterritorial area called the City of London, which is not part of the United Kingdom, and they are being held in the Tower, which is owned by the Vatican. So what is the crown doing here in the streets of a part of London that I actually think is real London? So what's the crown doing here? What's the base of an obelisk doing here? Why are people reduced to plastic flowers, And why do they have to be made to look like it's just blood pouring forth from the base of the obelisk? Okay. You have to understand all this. You have to understand the answers to these questions. And most importantly, you have to ask the questions to start with. Okay. And then when we're through with that, I'm going to take you on to the current Holocaust that we are not fighting because we're so busy remembering a Holocaust that finished 100 years ago. Okay. And what I also would like to announce about talking about that Holocaust is, if you all go to the Joint Investigation website, I have pointed this out many, many times, but under appeals, here there's the appeal for victim affidavits that was launched on the 21st of July, as you know, and to this day, right, which is almost, what's it, 3 or more months later, I still haven't produced the explanatory notes because of the attacks on me. And it's only with the release of the explanatory notes, which is what's missing here, that every victim has my signature and a legally binding statement from me how I'm going to use these affidavits to present them in court for my own court case and to write anonymous reports about the crimes so that they can be published. And also the middle bit, the anonymous bit that's public, will be published on the website of the Joint Investigation Team. And I will not do anything further with that. I will not sell the data and so on and so on, but I've also put that in writing along with explanations of how to fill this out, because it's somewhat more subtle than appears at first. So this has not been published because of the attacks on me and because I had to move house and I had to flee my previous abode, right? And it has been very hard. For some time, there was a definite improvement in my new lodgings, but since, not that long ago, the assaults have just become insane, okay? Absolutely insane, so that I can barely function. So this is why it was delayed, and I thought, what can I do? And I realized that the 100th centenary of the armistice is coming up this Sunday on the 11th of November. And Remembrance Day is always on the 11th of the 11th at 11 o'clock. Okay, now I am aware of the Masonic signaling behind that. I'm aware that that's again another signature of the Crown Corporation and the global crime cartel, that they would use this sort of numerology, with 1111 at 11 o'clock, 3 times 11s. Okay, yes, I see that. But I also think we need to system judo. So I thought, right, I'm going to appropriate this, the Armistice 100. And after all, after every armistice, you start, counting the dead. You start taking account of what just happened. And most importantly, you should be launching war crime tribunals against the criminal psychopaths who did all the killing, who hired people, and whose idea the entire fucking war was to start with. And this is something that has never been done in the history before and I have in the past tried to explain that the Nuremberg trials were one big fat Masonic fraud. And, I think it was Goering whose corpse is shown on Wikipedia, and he's showing the Masonic symbol of the hidden hand and the all-seeing eye, while he's alive. It's not his corpse, that he is alive and well, and saying fuck you to the entire world, essentially. So anyway, what I am planning to do is I'm going to System Judo Armistice 100, and the explanatory notes will be released on this Sunday, on the 11th of November 2018 at 11 o'clock UK time. And that's because the UK has this big headquarters in London. That's the Vatican Crime Cartel. By the way, it also has it in Switzerland. Okay. But I'm going with the UK because this is where Remembrance Day and the poppies feature quite prominently, and also because my intense targeting started in the United Kingdom, and my court case was against British intelligence. So I'm going to take all this, and it will be 11 o'clock UK time, 11 o'clock London time this Sunday, that I'm going to release the explanatory notes. And then once they are released, that's when the affidavit survey starts. And the affidavit survey, for those people who are new, is if you click on the PDF version here, you can see it's a 99-page collection of all. It's a survey, a tick box survey at core, and it's collecting all the staple offenses that a victim of the Crown Corporation or victim of the Secret Services would suffer. And it's, as I was trying to make it all encompassing. So, on Sunday, this Sunday, you will have my explanatory notes, but at the same time, that is for me, literally time zero. And from then on, we are collecting everything. We are collecting the evidence for these crimes against humanity. We are collecting the names of the perpetrators. We are getting the victim cases ready for court. Okay. And when I say we, I mean, of course, myself and you, whoever the hell is listening and is willing to help. So with you, I mean you if you're a victim. I mean you if you are an investigator, if you have any type of public office, if you're a police officer, if you're a politician, or even if you're a doctor, if you are in any sort of office where you have a public responsibility, it is your duty to help us. And by the way, that includes my dear former colleagues at St. John's College, Oxford, at Hertford College, Oxford, and by extension, everybody at CERN, at Daisy in Hamburg, and at the University of Oxford. We all have a personal public duty to stop this Holocaust, okay? Because a Holocaust, it truly is. People are being machine gunned to death in their own home, from satellites, from guns that are mounted at neighbors, from guns that are hidden in rucksacks. And the only difference between now and the Second World War and the First World War is that the actual shots coming out of these guns cannot be seen, but they rip through your tissue, they cause cancer, they cause tissue damage, they degenerate you, and they can kill. And people have been killed and people are being killed, and it's happening right now. And meanwhile, the police refuse to assist, and the secret services are the ones doing it. So it is extremely serious, the situation that we are in. Okay. So I want you all to please, take part in the 2-minute silence that the UK has at on the 11th of November. And the 2-minute silence is to remember the fallen. And if you go to my Twitter page, you can see some of the people I shall be remembering this Sunday, because 3 of them are listed here. 3 of them are the 3 math prodigies: Gareth Williams, who worked for MI6, Aaron Schwartz, or Dr. Williams, I should say, Aaron Schwartz, who was a math prodigy, and he was an internet entrepreneur, and Dr. John Forbes Nash Jr., who was also a math genius and is world famous. So these, amongst other people, are those who I think are the fallen in this modern war, or some of them. I believe that all three here have been murdered by the secret services. I also believe I've got evidence, certainly sufficient evidence for my own purposes and to draw my own conclusions. But there are many, many others. So I encourage you this Sunday, because it's the 100-year anniversary, do take part in the 2-minute silence. Remember those who have fallen. And by Sunday, maybe if you don't know anybody, come up with a list and find those who you respect the most, who have been killed in very recent years, because there are many, many, many people. And this is a covert war, much more vicious and much more deadly, as hard as it is to believe, than the First and the Second World War. And what makes it just so insidious is that people are dying around us and we don't know why, because they are being murdered by the secret services and the militaries, our own secret services and militaries, I should say, with covert weaponry. All right. But this war is very hot right now and it's in full swing. And I have been gunned all day long. And this is extremely serious. Other people who I'm aware of have been burned today, and other people have been bruised. There are non-stop accidents being triggered on purpose, and this is happening all around the world. Okay. And I also want you to know that this affidavit template collection here is, for me, the last step that we can take as civil society before we are calling for a military solution. Now, a military solution is very difficult because the military, I'm very sorry to tell you, are very uneducated. And they are a bunch of brutes with a very high fraction of psychopathic degenerates. So if you ever call them on the scene, they first of all have to be given very clear instructions, and they have to be supervised because they are out of control the best of times. And also now it's them causing these entire problems again with military weapons. But I also want you to understand that the situation is very serious. This is not a joke. When people are being gunned with directed energy weapons, it's not to make them healthier or make them live longer, for sure, right? And the truth is that to this day, even though these crimes have been known for 18 years publicly, nothing has actually been done to stop these people. They just continued to shoot at more and more people. And as I'm talking, just to make the humiliation even worse, I'm being gunned into my breasts, because that is what the psychopathic, sexually depraved degenerates and the military and the secret services are doing. The only thing, as you know, I said many times before, the only thing they're capable of is fucking and killing, and they typically combine the two. So people are being sexually mutilated, sexually assaulted while being shot at with these direct energy weapons. I'm sad to say that is normal. But what I'm saying is that the appeal for affidavits is the only civilized way we have left, in my view, to stop these bastards. And I'm going to do my utmost to do it the civilized way. But then after this, and I hope that the judges who we will meet will be aware of this, after this, this is our last resort. And if we do not get justice, if the courts do not uphold our right to life and our right to health and our right to privacy and not to be raped and gunned in our genitals and gunned into our heads and having our children gunned by a bunch of psychopathic degenerates in the employment of our own governments, paid with our own tax dollars, or at least that's the theory, then there's nothing preventing civil war, because the only other way we can stop this is with a military solution. Do you understand? But unfortunately, the military is in deep capture by these psychopathic degenerates. And if you look at the past performance of the militaries and how they have been roped into one war after another for the Crown Corporation, and yet were totally oblivious what the Crown Corporation even is, right? I would not hold any hopes out for the military. That's the truth, okay? And many people who have their heads screwed on do neither. So this means a civil war, right? We are these court cases away from a civil war. And the other side is already in active shooting mode at us and our families. All right, so this is what we're facing now. And this is why I'm so angry when I see the Department for Digital, whatever the fuck Department for Digital even means, because digital is a fucking adjective, right? The Department for Digital what? But anyway, culture, media, and sport, when they are ninning around with this shit, doing all their Masonic symbolism while there's an active Holocaust raging in London, I get fucking annoyed. Okay? So join me this Sunday at 11 o'clock when we'll try to put the image right, and I'll try to explain what's wrong with all this, and I'll try to draw attention to the real Holocaust. So this is on Sunday, the 11th of 11, as in November 2018 at 11 o'clock London time. All right, so then this is one thing I would like to announce, and to all the victims, many victims have written to me and have already filled out the affidavit. Please wait until Sunday when you have this document from me with my signature in it that tells you how I will use your affidavit. Do not send affidavits with your personal detail without this to anybody, not even me, for your own protection, okay? I'm not going to misuse your trust, but I'm just saying that you have to start thinking, and you have to start thinking in terms of your legal rights, okay? When you're filling out an affidavit, and if you send it to me, the least you can expect is a written statement from me how I'm going to use it. That's a bit longer than the one-page summary that's on the front of your affidavit. So I really want to get this right, guys, and I've spent a lot of time thinking about it. So please join me and wait until Sunday. Now, the other thing I would like to announce, so 2 days after the public launch of the affidavit template, I'm very, very pleased to announce that on Tuesday, I got an invite to appear on the Richie Allen show. And the reason why I make it public, and I'm showing you evidence right now that this is truly the case, let me just, let me bring up the, okay, let me just show you where the exchange is that I had prepared. Sorry, because it's one of the conversations, but I don't want to reveal who else I'm in conversation with due to confidentiality that I have to respect of other victims. So I was afraid that it might show other names. So this is why I paused for a second. So I can't show you my direct list of direct messages straight because of victim confidentiality. So let me just share my screen and show you. Yeah. Okay. So this is the evidence. Okay. And this, what you can see here is Richie Allen at Richie Allen Show. Who said, "Morning, Catherine, how are you?" And then you can see the entire conversation. And he suggested, how about next Tuesday? That would be 7 p.m. Central European time for 45 minutes. Okay, so you can see that this interview has been arranged. And the reason why I'm showing you evidence is because last time I went on the Richie Allen show, or tried to, over a year ago, there was extreme sabotage. So the first date that was scheduled, Richie Allen blew off the show and had to blow off every other broadcast that night because his router had blown up. That's what he told me. Okay. And then when I came on the show, maybe people remember, my microphone was sabotaged again and I sounded like a chipmunk. Okay. Now, this chipmunk effect happened a couple of times on my own shows, but it hasn't happened in the very beginning when I started using the microphone, which was, you know, a year earlier of this problem starting. So I'm pretty sure that that is cyber sabotage. But the reason why I'm showing you proof is that now you can see that this is what's going to happen next Tuesday. You can tune in. So 7 p.m. UK time is 8 p.m. Central European time for Berlin and Zurich, for example. And this means it's 2 p.m. next Tuesday on the East Coast of the United States, so in New York and so on. So you know when to tune in. And if should there be any sabotage, you know exactly who's doing it, which would be British intelligence, MI5, run by Andrew Parker. Okay. And the other reason why this interview is very, very important is because throughout the last year, people have died and the attacks have increased a lot. And I am extremely upset, right? And I'm extremely distressed as well. And I now want to also make public on the Richie Allen show the fact that we are collecting these affidavit templates, the fact that we are moving to court cases, and frankly, we will need all the protection from the public eye that we can get, because I have been just rammed in France, crossing France, just a few weeks ago in September. And this is with me appearing as an expert witness in a French court case at the end of November. So things are very, very difficult, and I want the public to know. So anyway, you can please tune in on Sunday afternoon for the launch of the affidavit template and for me talking about this entire armistice story. And then please tune in on Tuesday to the Richie Allen show. And I'll promise you, I'll do my best to explain publicly what is going on. I gave an interview very recently to Victorus Libertas, whom you can find on YouTube and on BitChute. So if you look for my newest interview, that's there. And there I explain everything about synthetic telepathy and what the end game is in my view, and you know, based on the evidence that I have seen. Okay, so this is all I wanted to say right now, folks. I'm going to come online in just over an hour to broadcast the Global Crime Fighters, and tonight's episode will be called Going to the Movies. And I'll show you all the stuff that the global crime cartel has revealed about its plans in the movies all along, and we just never knew how to interpret it. But when you know what to look for, it just becomes clear as day. So thank you very much for listening, and I hope to see you soon in an hour's time. Thank you, and bye for now.